Hey, you shiny plastic people, in the words of Jonathan Bonathan Jovithan, we're halfway there. That's right, Ahsoka's living on a prayer. This week, Cetos has a local BattleBots tournament. Maroc gets a little bit of steam let off. And of course, Sabine gets an all paid trip to go visit a friend. All this and more as my guest Rick and I will be talking Tano. Hey, you guys, I am the fantastic Chris Plastic, and joining me this week is Rick. Rick, how are you doing?
Doing great.
Excellent. So, Rick, could you tell us a little bit about how you got into Star Wars?
Well, I was actually born the year Star Wars came out, so it's always been around for me. When I was a kid, I mean, the toys and everything, and some of my earliest memories being born in 1977, I did not participate in the release of the original Star Wars, but I do remember going to the theater and coming out of the theater for seeing Empire Strikes Back. My parents took me. I don't really remember watching the movie, but I remember like impressions of what happened. And ever since then, I've just watched it. And then Return of the Jedi was just where it all started. I remember like my parents went on a vacation and they told me to go in their bedroom and get something out of the closet. And there was a bag in there and it was torn open and there was a Rancor toy inside. And I just remember like seeing it and I was so excited. And they're like, oh, well, we were going to give that to you when we got back, but here you go. So it's just kind of always been around for me. And I really enjoyed it. I'm not like massively into the lore and history. I enjoy watching the movies and the TV shows, all of it. I never read the books, but I just enjoy the world building, and I really have enjoyed the TV series that have come out recently and just expanding the universe, and just showing that there's more to the Star Wars universe than Luke and Leia and just the original characters. There's so much more going on, and there's so much potential that while the Jedi are a huge part of it, they don't always need to be in everything.
100%. We've definitely seen more of the Star Wars world, especially on Disney Plus, so that's really cool, and I'm glad they're doing that.
Yeah, it's been great, from all the TV shows, and so far, Ahsoka has been just great coming from the Rebels and Clone Wars before that. Just seeing her on the screen and just seeing kind of where the story's going, and essentially it's Rebel season 5. So far it's been really good. I've enjoyed it a lot. I want to see more Chopper though.
I think my wife is right there with you. I think Chopper somehow quickly became her favorite Star Wars character. He,
I
he
always
has
liked him in
he's
just
got that
just
effect.
Rebels and stuff. Yeah, he's just funny, mostly because he's a murdering maniacal little twisted robot. But they haven't really shown that in the TV series.
Yeah, he's been mostly kind of the sidekick so far.
He has not a lot of stuff going on. I hope at least once they show his true character, just him doing something, that Chopper would do.
There's
Yeah.
time. There's certainly time.
Yeah, we got 4 more episodes, so I mean there's time for him to like destroy the Hyperloop ring and kill everybody.
Well, and I think they're going to be so much more involved after this episode, just kind of where we left things.
Yeah, I think it's really starting. I'm really excited for this episode that I just happened to be the guest on this one, just because it's such a crux of an episode, just so much going on. Um, it seems like everything's kind of from this point is I think it's just going to ramp up.
I think with that, we should get into it. So we should warn the crowd that there will be spoilers.
If you have not seen it, go watch it.
I sure hope you watched it before you watched this. That would be strange. That'd be a weird choice. I just want to shout out real fast. Aaron from Payne's Toy Samples is in the chat. He said hello earlier. He will be the host or co-host next week. Looking forward to having him. So let's go ahead and get some visual aids. Right away, we kick off with some dire needed repairs. And poor Hu Yang is left to do all the work.
I've really enjoyed Hu Yang, just him being back. Um, and it's been a very interesting character so far, just kind of seeing a little bit more of him and his personality that David Tennant kind of puts through because he has that very cold, kind of just distant personality, but it just fits so well with the character. And I mean, how would you portray a robot that's been around 1,000 years?
I mean, 100%. It's funny to think that he had one story arc in Rebels, and he is suddenly, or not Rebels, Clone Wars, and he has been a major part of this show, and it's so much better for him being in it.
He kind of he, he kind of was I guess the fulcrum point or something for trying to get Ahsoka and Sabine back together. And I think that probably in the writing, I would guess that's kind of why he was there. Was we need some way to get these characters back together because they're not going to do it on their own.
And already they're starting to rebuild those relationships. You know, Ahsoka knows what Sabine's looking for, even though, boy, they laid the foreshadowing on thick early on with this. Can I trust you?
Can
Can
I
I
trust you?
trust you?
No, as it turns out, no.
I'm going to
But
argue she followed the uh, the thing she was told to the T, but we'll get to that. Because outside we have some droid on droid violence.
that was funny. Just watching Hu Yang try to fight. I don't know. I mean, I guess he just never had any protocols for it really or any need. I mean, it'd be interesting to know if he could use a lightsaber or anything. I mean, he can build them. He's been around the Jedi for so long. I want to just wonder if he could do any kind of fighting besides like kind of the self-defense.
I assume he could, because I not too long ago went back and watched his arc on Clone Wars, and he was pretty quickly like damaged in the fight with the pirates. So one of the things he told the younglings was he was in no condition to defend them. So that must be something he can and normally would do.
He probably is programmed to defend. But yeah, it was interesting just watching him fight and then basically he was defeated. I mean, he's not an assassin droid like the other guys. I mean,
No,
that's not his function in life.
and I'm sure he has a couple thousand years of age on them.
Well, he did say he's 75% original parts, so I mean, can only upgrade and be so quick with 1,000-year-old parts.
Right, exactly. And his design seems so sparse compared to other droids we've seen. So he's definitely from a different era, both literally and just kind of when you look at him.
Right. It, and I like the visual. I mean, Hu Yang's always looked different than other droids, and it's always been even his name. I mean, it just is interesting to like know where that came from. Like, who named him and why, and who was he, who built him? Was
Oh,
it just the Jedi or was it
I I've been told. I don't know. I haven't read it myself, but he apparently shows up in some of the High Republic stuff.
okay?
So there is some more Hugh Yang stuff out there. I mean, how important he is to those stories, who knows? Maybe he's just teaching other younglings lightsaber
Yeah,
building
just
techs.
exists.
Right. But he's hanging out with a younger Yoda and the like in the High Republic.
Still have hopes that they're gonna make that show.
Um, I believe the Acolyte will be set in the High Republic, but
I
that's
think so.
that's going to be focusing, I think, on a dark side user, which is an interesting concept. I was talking to Jesse, just talking about how kind of neat it would be if we had a show that was from the Imperial point of view, where they're the good guys.
Right, because everything's kind of a much like the real world around us. Everything's kind of spun on who the quote unquote victors are. Right history and things like that. So I mean, but the Empire with the propaganda and everything else, I mean, it could easily portray themselves or believe themselves to be the true heroes because they're trying to maintain order from the rebels and provide stability to the galaxy and things like that. and the rebels are trying to tear everything down.
Right. Like, clearly they're fascists. We know that. We get the outside looking in.
Yep.
But there is got to be some, like, outer rim, low level lieutenant who's, like, in it for the cause, who thinks they're doing good and doesn't really catch on to the bigger, like, oh, am I the bad guy?
Yeah, it would be interesting. Just those kind of, but again, expanding the universe and just showing the different perspectives and just developing extra characters. And just, again, it's interesting because, again, I love the shows, but I think Andor so far has been my favorite just because it shows so much of how the Empire functions and everything else.
Absolutely. And that's kind of a high point for the Empire when we see Andor, because it's
Hmm.
early rebellion.
Right.
you know
Before everything really, before the shine comes off.
right. um Now, after our little run-in with this assassin droid, Sabine and Ahsoka go off into the forest, and we cut to Hera, who's decided to go rogue too.
Yep.
So, sorry,
And I
I
really
couldn't help
liked it.
myself.
I
uh
get it. I
yeah.
got it.
uh but this is the first time we've seen the ghost in the series, which, boy, how lucky for Hasbro, the day before they end their HasLab to crowdfund a ghost, that they decide to show the ghost on TV. What a lucky happenstance.
I wonder how that happened. Couldn't it's not coincidence, right?
Synergy.
Yeah. So I mean, it was great seeing the ghost on the screen because it's an interesting ship. And again, I think it's one of the funny things about this is it's not a cargo hauler exactly, but I mean, the Millennium Falcon and the Ghost along the same ilk. They're not what you consider traditional fighting ships.
Right, they're both Carillion freighters of
Carillion kind of
kind.
more freighters of a kind, and it's just interesting that two of the most, popular ships as far as the stories go and just having so much meaning behind them, they're not fighting ships. They're just, again, it kind of shows the rebellion and the rebels just use whatever you got.
Right. Now, real world, we've been with the Millennium Falcon for, almost 50 years, but in actual screen time, I think we've spent more time on the Ghost than we have the Falcon.
Probably over the actual series and everything else, yeah, because there was all of Rebels, just basically almost every episode of Rebels, the Ghost played some part of it.
Right. Series 4, it kind of disappeared.
Because everything happened on the planet, it wasn't. But I
Right.
mean, up until that point, it was, they were zipping around from point A to point B all the time, and it was great to see it on the screen. And just, again, I liked how Hera, she basically pulled a Han Solo and was like, I just do what I want. You gonna stop me?
Well,
And
and
then
I was just going to say,
and
it's funny,
then
this isn't its first time in live action, because it was both in The Rise of Skywalker and Rogue One, in blink and you miss it moments.
I blunked and I missed it.
Because it was parked outside of Yavin Base in Rogue One,
Okay.
just hanging out, and there was an announcement for General Syndulla to come, like, to the briefing room. So it's like,
Yeah, those Easter eggs.
yeah. But yeah, it's so cool that we actually get to spend some time, and I think we're going to spend a lot more time on the Ghost moving
I
forward.
think it's going to be pivotal. It just, again, I think all the characters, I don't know because I mean we've seen Geb. I don't know if he's gonna somehow be there, but it doesn't appear to be, which is kind of disappointing. But I mean, I guess you have so much budget to work with, and him being a giant blue alien, might not be able to afford him in every episode.
Right. But you know what? Our good friend Carson, who is supporting Hera here, the pilot who's been in Mando and everything.
I loved seeing him back again.
Yeah. He knows Zeb. They hang out at the same New
They hang out.
Republic bar.
Yep.
So he can give him a quick call,
Yeah. Hey, we lost a couple pilots on this from this warp ring. We need some backup.
But then we get to the action. Lightsaber battles of the forest, a classic.
You gotta have it. I mean, if you have Jedi, you have to have the fight, and just you knew that this was gonna happen again. And I really like the fight. I saw like there's Sabine. She almost was able to use the Force. She maybe did a little bit.
I think we're building to that moment. I think it will be
Yeah,
like episode 7 or 8. She will move something.
I think it will be. I think it will be more than just moving something. I think she's going to do something completely from left field. I don't know what. Like she's going to pull down a star destroyer or something like that. Just it. I don't know why. That's my prediction.
Ooh, I don't know if I'd be okay with something that big. I mean, there would almost be a celebration in her just force, like, grabbing the lightsaber.
Pushing somebody off a cliff or something like that. Yes. But I mean, okay, maybe she's not going to pull down a star destroyer, but she's going to do something, I think.
Right.
Something to show a major impact with her like somehow connecting to the force. I just hope we get to that point without it being like, "Oh no, Ahsoka got killed" or something like that.
Um, I've got a working theory that Ahsoka can't be killed, but that's, here or there.
Well, given the way this episode ended, that's entirely possible.
Uh, yeah, because I think she's actually basically now the daughter because of everything that
I-
happened on Mortis. But I have no real proof until someone comes out and says it that it's much more important than me.
Something, well, I mean, again, just because of how the episode ended, something isn't normal, because I don't think we've seen. I mean, we have the episode where they're on Vortis, and then they have the son, the daughter and the son or whatever it is, and we've seen something like that, but never in live action have we seen anything where because it's not Force ghosts. Like, what is this? What's going on?
Absolutely. And the thing about Ahsoka is she's really mean to Inquisitors. I think this
Yeah,
is the third or fourth Inquisitor she's killed.
she's. It's very interesting just watching her do the fight scene, and just she's very cold and calculating.
Right. She is a very skilled combatant with a lightsaber, and she should be. I mean, she learned, of course, at the side of Anakin Skywalker, arguably one of the greatest with a lightsaber to have done it.
The other thing I thought was interesting is in the lightsaber battles, she only used one lightsaber. She didn't use her dual wielding
That is
when she
true.
was fighting other Force users. And I don't know if it's I don't know why. I mean, like I don't know. Maybe it was just easier to have that on screen, but I don't know if there was a reason behind her not using her second lightsaber.
I think the second lightsaber, uh, if we go based on the Tales of the Jedi, the short anthology series they put out,
Hmm.
really helps mostly in melee combat. Where there's gunfire and things, but maybe in a duel, it's more advantageous to just use the single blade.
No, it worked out for her, that's for sure. She
It
took
certainly
out the
did.
Inquisitor.
I kind of wonder though if he was undead or if he was like Night Sister, like enhanced, like Savage Opress. Based on the green smoke oozing out.
I don't know. Like, it's okay, just off the wall thing. There are so many different aliens and things like that. Maybe what if the alien is the gas
That could
and
be. It just
piercing
it
the suit? Just his environmental suit was broken and he lost control.
that
I
that
mean,
very well could be. I know. I was just going off the fact that the effect looks so much like Night Sister magic.
right? He could have been like animated or something like that. Because I mean, the Night Sisters just they're they do witchcraft,
Right.
which I mean it's using the force in different ways, but I mean there's no like clear rules on what can they do and can't do. So I mean at this point I think they're kind of playing with what they can do with the force because there isn't any expectations or limits on what they can do.
Right. Or he could even, in fact, this just popped in my head, that it could be a Night Sister inhabiting a corpse because of rebels when they go try to free Ezra from Maul, and the Night Sister like spirits inhabit Kanan and Sabine.
Right.
It kind of has
Okay,
that
yeah.
same effect.
I wonder if we'll get. It was kind of anticlimactic the way they took him out. So I'm wondering if maybe they'll show him back in some manner to explain like who he was or what he was,
I don't know.
or if they will just leave it as a, he was just there and he got chopped in half and there we go.
Or potentially they just show us them making others like him, and that's all we need to know. Because I don't want a Snoke situation where we go like, oh, but who was that guy? Oh, good, it's a puppet for Palpatine. Yeah. Ugh.
Yeah, we're not going there. Snoke is just a wasted storyline. He was interesting, and then it was like just threw him away. So
yeah, but on some level, just killing him and walking away would have been more acceptable than what we got.
Right. Just good old sequels. Not my favorite.
Brick something's in the chat. Hey, Brick. Now, of course, our Night Sister, Elizabeth. Oh, no. Morgan Elsbeth. There we go. I almost said Elizabeth. Morgan Elsbeth tells Baylan Skoll to protect the map because she knows that Ahsoka's coming. This had a really cool design, and I remember when they showed this set off in the trailers, everyone's like, these idiots left equipment out, and you could see it everywhere. Not realizing that it's Imperial technology.
Yeah. I'm just curious, like, so the map, like, based upon other things that they've talked about in the series, it's just who made the maps. So they were like ancient maps built based on the migration trails of the space squid whales. But, who made them, what purpose, and, again, how long ago? Because obviously this is like basically lost technology almost.
Right. And on some level, is this maybe a little Force MacGuffin-y that they know that this was the exact map they needed to find Thrawn? Unlike
right. It's
the knife that was specifically shaped to match the wreckage of the Death Star at that exact moment on the forest moon of Endor.
I think it is a little bit, but maybe it was, they know that they need to get to this galaxy. Maybe it's not going to take them directly to Thrawn. Maybe they just know that this was the direction that they were going and this was the galaxy that they needed to get to. So maybe they just found a map that sent them to the right galaxy.
Right, close enough to get them where they're going.
Close enough, we can get there, and then we can find, who we need. We can find Thrawn.
But of course, Ahsoka does make her way there, and we have kind of an epic duel, a different style.
Right, very different. I thought it was interesting that Baylan, he was able to he was very aggressive, his style, and he was basically able to overpower her.
Right, he fought like his was a broadsword. He, two-handing it, lots of weight.
Two-handed it like, I am so much stronger than you. And it just felt like she was not fighting to her strengths. She was letting him dominate the duel.
But of course, sneaky Ahsoka did grab the map, and it didn't feel very good.
I thought that was interesting, just that it was hot.
Part of me is like, why didn't you just like force push it?
Force push it, cut it in half with your lightsaber, because I mean, why did you grab it? And then when it was burning your hand, you held on to it for like 15 seconds. All you needed to do was throw it over the cliff.
Now, that's not to say that she wasn't trying to grab the map to, try to find Ezra to keep her promise to him and Sabine, but...
Right.
But it'd be so easy to just
Yeah, just chuck it over the cliff. Then we'll win the duel and we'll worry about what comes afterwards.
yeah, and Brick hits it on the head with where I think they're going with that. Because it wouldn't have burned her hand and left the mark they would have needed to follow them to the other galaxy.
Indiana Jones, here we go.
That's right.
But that's interesting. I mean, I kind of like that just in a way because it's a call out to another George Lucas series. It's kind of a little Easter eggy thing. We got a meta going on.
But yeah, as soon as it burnt her, I'm like, it burnt an impression. I'm sure it burnt an impression. I tried to actually look closely when I was looking at screenshots to see if I could tell. Now, there is a common complaint with the series early on that, Rosario Dawson doesn't show enough emotion as Ahsoka, but she sure showed a lot of emotion when she thought Sabine was dead.
Yeah. So I think this shows Ahsoka, because this is a period of time after Anakin's left, and she knows he's Darth Vader. So I think there's been a period of time. I think she's just kind of basically she's followed more the Jedi way in that she's tried to control her emotions and just tamp everything down.
Well, and I think she's also kind of, for a lack of better way of phrasing it, trying to role play what she thinks a master should be to someone like Sabine.
She's trying to portray that, yeah, like a leader, the cold, detached, rational kind of person that, again, she's trying to be that leader. Maybe she's trying to imitate like Obi-Wan, really.
Right, because the alternative is Anakin, and she saw where that led.
Yeah, that, your emotions rule, and yeah, kind of didn't want to go that way.
But of course, Sabine pops up alive. Ahsoka's happy about it, but she gets chucked off the cliff.
Distracted.
Which leads to the seduction of Sabine.
I thought this was really cool. Because again, Baylan, I mean, they've hinted at him doing it before, but I think one of his, because each Jedi seems to have like a kind of almost a specialty, like something that there's a force power that they're more in tune with, and his is somehow like reading people, like their emotions, or just picking up on their thoughts. Maybe he can read people's thoughts very well, and he picked up on her weak spot. I'm sure she had surface thoughts at the time was, oh no, if we destroy this, I can't find Ezra, and then he picks it up like that's how I get it.
Well, and I think he's actually a very empathetic guy as a whole, because I think he didn't even want to push Ahsoka really off the cliff. I think he had the line like, I didn't want this destruction, but your way forced it, or something along those lines. And
yeah,
Oh, go ahead.
He's such a great character in that I feel he's kind of like Ahsoka in a way, in that he's not really a Sith exactly. He's not a Jedi. I think he's an Empire Force user who thinks he's doing the right thing. Like we were talking about earlier, that lieutenant off in the middle of nowhere, he's doing this for the greater good. Baylan really believes that what this needs to happen for the galaxy.
Right. And I think you hit on the head that he's a dark mirror to Ahsoka. Like, he found his own path to survive, even though it may not be necessarily the right one.
His character just seems like he truly believes in what he's doing. And he knows that some of his decisions are not good, but he believes that the ends justify the means.
Right. And even then, I'm not sure if he's really pro Empire, if he's not just pro burn it all down so we can build a new.
We need something different, because he's seen what the Jedi did. So that way did not work. He saw what the Empire did. That didn't really work either. So I think his belief is now bring Thrawn back, let this giant battle commence, and we'll pick up the ashes.
So Brick here actually thinks that uh, Mr. Skull, Balin, is actually a light mirror to Sidious, and Shin is Maul to him, to his Sidious.
It's interesting. But I really liked this character. And who knows what's going to happen with the character. I'm extremely sad that we don't get to see Ray Stevenson portray him anymore.
Right. No matter where his story goes from here, it's unfortunately an end.
Yeah, it's very sad because he over the years he's played some very good character roles. Not, I mean, I would honestly say that this is probably his biggest role. Um, and he did such a good job of portraying this character.
So, okay, Brick is saying that he's trying to manipulate the Imperial remnants the same way Sidious manipulated the Trade Federation and the Separatists, but, so still ultimately a bad guy.
I don't know that he's a bad guy. I think he's just...
Well, okay, he said dark. I use the word bad guy, so just to clarify.
Right. I want to see where the story arc with him goes.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, again, his actions are dark, evil, but like just from the way he has talked and just his actions, like I just don't think he's truly a Sith or dark in that he's outright evil. I think he believes in just something greater.
Sure. But he does keep his promise to Sabine. He's going to get her to her friend Ezra. I mean, she just might be in cuffs the way there.
Well, I can understand this. I mean, he will keep his promise because again, he's this weird juxtaposition of, a Sith and a Jedi. And he has kind of both sides showing through. It's just in a previous episode where he talked and said, "Do we really need to kill her? There's so few Jedi left." It's just this character, he has like respect for anybody that can use the Force, it seems.
So Shin could figuratively say something like, "At last, we will reveal ourselves to the Sith. We will have our revenge." He's not Sith, but he thinks he's bringing the light, but he's not. Also, yes. Lucha Johnny from Geek the F Out stopping in. Good to see you, Lucha. It's funny. To go back earlier, Ahsoka said to Sabine, "If we can't go to Ezra, no one should."
Right.
Sabine's going to Ezra.
Yeah. So this was, yeah. So technically, by letter of the word, yeah, it's all okay.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, ultimately, we had to get to Thrawn anyway. He's in the trailers.
We have to see Thrawn, and I want to see Mads Mikkelsen show up the screen because that's going to be just epic.
Yep.
Just to see Thrawn on the screen.
Johnny brings up a good point. Hu Yang also told them to stay together. They didn't do that.
They did not. Nope. And yep, Hu Yang was absolutely correct. You do better when you're together, because I think together they cancel each other out their bad decisions or impulses. Because that seems to be both of their problems ultimately is they get distracted.
That's an unfortunate fact, and my mic level really dropped off for some reason. Just 1 second.
Nope.
If it comes back, there we go. Thank you for your patience. And you can't hear me.
Now I can.
Okay. All right. My cable got partially unplugged.
Oops.
Technology goes boink.
Yes. And we both love technology. It's great.
It's not like we do it all day, every day.
Unfortunately. And then at night,
Yeah.
I had to set a new computer up for my mom today.
Oh
It's such a
no.
wonderful experience. Yeah.
So we get a little bit of shades of the Last Jedi.
I yeah. I wondered where this was going. And again, I just I am so anti Holdo maneuver, just breaking it up. I kind of can accept this more in that there was just like the wake of light speed. It just kind of, moved everything around and disturbed the space kind of thing. But I thought it was interesting that, oh, there's this power spike, they're getting ready to warp, and then they just kept flying forward. It's kind of a MacGuffin to me.
At least wow, my mic is just not playing nice. You know,
Sounds okay.
yeah, my levels in here are not so great. But I will say that okay, let's try that. Nope. I, we'll just go on. We'll figure it out. But a ring they go around, but everybody got knocked around by the wake versus trying to
Solid matter did not pass through them.
100%.
Now you're unplugged again.
Yeah, and now I'm back again, hopefully. Um technology. Now you're back to normal. Can you hear me yet, Rick?
I can.
Okay. We're going to try to get through this before the mic dies and it's low again. Son of a
The batteries, or who knows?
Who knows? My apologies. You're going to see my ugly face real fast. We're just going to use the built-in microphone on here. Rick, can you still hear me?
Yep.
Okay.
I
we're
can.
just going to go with that. So uh so okay. Wake knocks some X-wings around. We lose a couple pilots here, but I think Carson makes it through, and that's what's important. We know.
I hope.
Go ahead.
I hope Carson makes it, because he's been such an interesting character since Mando, and just little bit roles of him just showing up.
Yeah. I think he's gonna stick around. We know Hera's gonna be okay because she is arguably the best pilot in the galaxy. At least if we're going by Thrawn, opinion.
Logic.
Yeah. Of course, Jason Syndulla has a bad feeling about this.
So the question is, what does he mean by that?
I think he's got a force sensitive feeling that he can't sense Ahsoka, and Sabine just pulled away, so he probably can't sense her. So he might know something not adding up.
Something not adding up, or does he have the force sensitivity to actually sense when something isn't right? More than that, like a premonition.
Right. And we have to assume this being the son of a Jedi, he's got some latent force abilities.
Probably he's untrained, I would imagine, because there's nobody to train him at this point.
Right. I don't think Ahsoka's interested in training Jedi either, so...
No, she hasn't shown the aptitude for it, but it's interesting to think maybe that's where this is going, is Ahsoka will be not refounding the Jedi Order, but refounding a Force user order.
Right, something light side adjacent, not dissimilar from what Balin is doing dark side ish.
Yeah, like a different teaching methods, almost is kind of what it seems.
But thankfully, Ahsoka didn't fall to her death. She ended up someplace familiar to her.
Yep, and this was very epic to actually see it on the screen. The thing that the one criticism I have about the show so far is if you did not watch Rebels and Clone Wars, there's so much people are missing out on. Now I don't know, rather than like tripling the length of the show, there's no way they could show all this stuff so people could understand it. I feel sorry for the people that aren't getting everything, the full meaning of everything behind it.
Speaking of not watching Rebels, Johnny's really curious how she ended up there. But he says he's following along fine. I kind of wonder though if they are not, especially with her running into a familiar face in her former master Anakin, if we are trying to convince maybe the people who haven't seen Rebels that this may be the afterlife.
Right. The afterlife, or I mean, the thing that gets me though is it's not the afterlife and it's not Force ghosts, because that's what we've seen on screen before. So, what's going on?
Now, it may be just an error with the de-aging, but he's not scarred up yet real bad, so I wonder if this isn't maybe a young Jedi Knight Anakin who's somehow here at a time.
That could be like he's actually, or in this the world between worlds, it's how you perceive yourself. Like this would be how Anakin would see himself, as Anakin,
Sure.
not as Darth Vader. This is the image he would have with Ahsoka. This was who he was. This is him, not Darth Vader, not, his damaged self that became Darth Vader and was, scarred by the dark side and gave in to the hatred. But this is who he is when he views himself.
Right. But I kind of wonder if he didn't pull her out of falling, not unlike when Ezra pulled her out of her battle with Darth Vader, and that's how she ended up.
So it's I can't wait for the next episode just for them to explain what's going on. Like how does this happening?
Johnny's saying that there was a muffled but somewhat hard to hear make out hello snips in there when she first sat up.
I had to go back and listen to that again. I paused it like the first time because I was like, what did that say? So I paused it and rewound it back a little bit, and then I really listened, and yeah, it's there. And I recently I met Hayden Christensen, and I'm just really glad that they've gone back and revisited his character so much, and he got so much hate for his portrayal in the prequels and everything else, and there were issues, and I will not disagree with that, but I don't think he deserved the Star Wars hate that he got. And I really am glad that he's kind of been able to reconnect with the fans.
I think he's shown the ability to act in other projects. I think he was, not to pick on George, but I think George is maybe a bad director.
I think, yeah, his direction and the character, he was flat, and I think the other problem is there was no chemistry between him and Padme. Like, well, what's her face? I can't think of her name.
Oh no, Natalie Portman. Natalie Portman.
Her. There was no chemistry on the screen between them, and it did not help that there were just so many like corny lines. And I mean, I get Star Wars is not, Shakespeare or anything else, but there was so much like just corny flat lines in the prequels. It's just like, really?
Well, and I think I saw someone recently say the worst part about them not having chemistry on screen is they were dating off screen at the time.
I did
So
not know that.
I don't know if it's true, but I saw someone say that, and I just thought, well, that's embarrassing.
Yeah, it's just I don't know. Because I saw the prequels and I was in my early 20s, and I think my favorite one was Attack of the Clones, and then Revenge of the Sith. It was those two were okay, but the first one was it was a snooze fest. But I mean, you know, Hayden Christensen, he wasn't in that one, so we can't blame him. But again, I think it just shows that George Lucas was not the best director, and I think he had really had an inflated ego because he had a vision, and his vision was the only one, and it wasn't what people had made up the series to be.
I think you're right. I really do. Well, and he had a vision for Star Wars that the same way I think fans had a vision for Luke Skywalker that the sequels didn't match up.
Yes,
E-
yes,
exact same thing with the prequels. It wasn't what we
yeah.
thought.
It wasn't what we thought. Off on a tangent for Ahsoka, but I really liked Luke Skywalker. I thought that was the best part of the Last Jedi, was just showing his humanity. You know, he was not perfect, and he had literally the weight of the universe on his shoulders. And who can live up to that perfection?
Right, and you almost wonder if the Jedi are in a better hands of a nobody, somebody who's not galaxy like royalty at this point, galactic
Yeah,
royalty.
right. Just, and I think maybe who knows where it's going to go. Um, but I think there's going to be little groups popping up that are going to be, different temples, so to speak, of just force users or force sensitive, and they're, a master teaching pupils, but there isn't going to be this galactic order anymore. So there's going to be, just like we have thousands upon thousands of different religions, there's going to be thousands upon thousands of different force users and different philosophies. And, we're going to maybe see in here different philosophies conflicting with each other and things.
You know, we're gonna have the Methodist Jedi Order. We're gonna have the Seventh Day
Have you,
Adventists.
yeah, the Methodists, that would be funny, visiting planet to planet. Have you heard the word?
The Yoda Witness sect.
So it just, there's a lot of going on in the, I think the TV series is, my biggest fear right now is Disney and the TV series, and with Bob Iger coming back. I believe in Bob Iger in that Bob Chapek, he was destroying Disney um, through various decisions, and Bob Iger's come back and kind of refocused it. But I'm afraid for the TV series, in that I think the TV series really has been the strongest things they've been able to put out.
You're not wrong. And I kind of think Disney Plus wasn't meant to make money right away, but investors don't
No,
get that.
no, it was not designed to make money right away. It was designed to bleed Netflix, is basically what it was comes down to. And it's because Disney had so much money. The plan was, we're just going to do our own thing and not be at anybody else's whims. But with them cutting movies and scaling back, and I do agree with scaling back on the movies, and it was just because so many of the Marvel properties, the animation was subpar, the writing was subpar. um, I think they were just trying to churn out too much.
Just to not rag on Disney, but to bring up what Brick has been saying in the chat, I think he's got some interesting stuff. Where he said Luke in the sequels was the Luke we knew in the original trilogy. Luke's biggest victory when he brought his dad back and thwarted the Empire, he did it by throwing away his lightsaber. So,
Interesting. Yeah.
so when Rey came and gave him his lightsaber and told him to defeat the lightsaber, what'd he do? He tossed it.
It's like I don't need this anymore. Like, it holds me back.
Right, and yeah, he points out that Luke relit the spark of rebellion by not fighting Kylo Ren,
Right.
by
I
not
and
using the
again,
lightsaber.
the Luke in the last Jedi, I thought he portrayed that so well. Just and I mean, I thought it was great just the way that everything worked together in that. There were problems throughout the whole movie, but again, there were individual parts that were just I thought they were great.
But even Yoda told Ezra in Rebels when he asked him, "How do we win?" You win by not fighting.
You have to show people that there's a different path because if you conquer them, no matter if it's for the right or the wrong reasons, people resent it. And defeating them through fighting just creates another rebellion.
Right, and the cycle will just continue,
It just
unfortunately.
keeps it just keeps repeating until ad infinitum. And I think given human nature, I think that no matter what, no matter if we show them the better path, it will be followed for a period of time. But eventually, the inevitability is we will create conflict. As somebody will not be happy, it will create conflict, and the cycle will start again.
I apologize for our viewers at home. There's a dog upstairs howling, and she's not happy about life. Um,
Is that Daisy?
it's Edward. It's Loth Pup Edward. Uh, but that's why he thinks Balin is doomed to fail. He thinks there needs to be another war to bring the light.
Yeah, I don't. I mean, again, given the history of the series and everything, I don't think they would ever portray the Empire winning, so to speak. I think there may be gray areas where they kind of win, but I think we're going to see Ahsoka defeat the evil plans. But I'm interested to see the way they end the series, whether or not it leads into another season. Because is Thrawn going to be around? What is that story going to lead to if Thrawn is around?
Right, and I was thinking about this the other day because I saw a thumbnail, and I'm trying to keep my opinions my own, but I saw a thumbnail that just had a picture of Thrawn and said "not evil?" question mark, and I kind of thought, what if Thrawn has no interest in ruling our galaxy?
Yeah, because his character was never. He looked like he was fulfilling a role, like he was, hired to do a job and he did it exceptionally well and just made his way up through the ranks. It could be that he has no interest in doing it, or again, his interest is just from the standpoint of somebody's got to do it,
Right, and I think
and I will do it fairly.
sure. And again, this is me not reading books but seeing little tidbits. I think Thrawn joined the Empire to eventually build an ally to his race. So who's not to say he doesn't get in charge and goes, "All right, guys, let's back up my people."
It very well could be, because I have not read the books either, um, and I know that he comes from the Timothy Zahn books, um, and
Yeah,
everything there. So it's interesting just to see where they're going to go with it and what they're going to portray him as. And I think then, as I said before, I think the next 4 episodes, I think the pacing is it's just really going to ramp up, and we're going to see a lot happening. I'm just curious to see where it ends up at the end of everything.
so we're getting close to an hour here, so I figured let's wrap up. Where do you think we're going, Rick?
Well, we're going to go to another galaxy, which we haven't seen in Star Wars before. So that I'm curious for that, just to see what they portray there. I mean, alien races, different cultures. Maybe they're going into an order of, not Jedi, but a Jedi-like people. Maybe they're going into an empire that's ruled by somebody else. Maybe Thrawn maybe he's a captive by this other, you know, who knows what's going to happen, because it's been, I guess, thousands of years since anybody's gone to this other galaxy, been able to follow the star maps.
I do believe we did go to one other galaxy in Rebels where the Lasats were hanging out at their original planet.
I think so. It's been a while.
But it could be a very different galaxy. So, or maybe it's just a galaxy of Lasats that Thrawn has been hanging out with. A bunch of weird old lady Lasats.
Who knows? I mean, that's the potential. And again, it's what are they going to do with it? Because it's Dave Filoni and John Favreau, and it's whatever they want to write.
Right. And the nice thing is Dave has been show running. He directed the first episode, but he has handed off the directing to these episodes, and I think that was a good decision.
Yeah, we're getting to see different touches of people throughout them. And I think, so far I think that all the directors have really understood the characters and just how they are. A complete side note, but I absolutely despise the badges that the new Empire has. I think they just look terrible.
that happens.
So I'm like, what is that? It's a it's a piece of tin with a dot. Looks like those candies, the wax candies that you peel off.
So Brick says the weirdest bit about Thrawn coming to be back to be the heir to the Empire is the story as to why he joined the Empire. He wasn't there as a true believer, but ultimately to help his people, the Chiss.
So maybe that's still his goal, and he would take up the Empire just to help. Maybe unoppress his people or whatever's going on with them. Who knows? It's just interesting, like the possibilities.
Yeah, I don't think the council that Moff Gideon was on would be totally stoked about that, though.
No. The other thing is, in the Empire is very like xenophobic. So Thrawn was he was the token alien that existed in high ranks.
We're not racist. We got that guy.
We got that guy. See, he's a general.
Sure.
Look, he's in charge of our fleets.
Grand Admiral Thrawn.
Yeah, he is the token alien kind of thing.
Right, except he was super brilliant, so he had that going for him.
There were reasons that, they promoted him. I mean, they just didn't pick some random guy off the street. But I think it was almost a concession to have somebody in that role. And there you go. Like, no, we're great. Look at all the aliens we have. We have him. See him right over there.
Right. He was the recruitment argument. We don't hate aliens. Why else would we have someone as a Grand Admiral? You just gotta pull yourself up.
You just have to want it up and be absolutely brilliant beyond belief at tactics. And you too can do this.
Exactly.
Otherwise, you're cleaning out the garbage compactors.
Well, I think as we hit 9 o'clock our time, we should wrap it up there. Rick, thank you so much for coming in and being my guest this week.
It's been great. It's been fun just to kind of nerd out and talk about everything going on.
So I know I will see you probably later, not tomorrow or next week, but is there anything you want to promote for the audience at home or?
So my wife has a website. It's RKB Creative Studios. She makes keychains and stickers, things like that. And on a personal note, who knows who's watching or may watch in the future, but I have a Darth Vader doll that I have had signed by C. Andrew Nelson and Hayden Christensen. And I'm looking to get James Earl Jones to sign it also. So if somehow miraculously this word ever gets out, I will drive anywhere in the United States for 30 seconds of his time to sign that helmet.
Fair enough. Well, next week, Aaron will be joining me. If you're catching this on replay, there will be a link to his channel at the end. Thank you guys so much for being here. Have a good evening. Have a good weekend. And don't forget to let yourselves shine.
Goodbye.